Good evening, everyone. And I really mean that. Good evening. Despite the pain and trauma of the last 14 months, including the devastating news we all received about our fellow New Yorker, Omer Nutra, my message to you tonight is that on this long arc of Jewish history, we're in a good moment. This is a good night. It is a good moment for Israel, for Jews in America, for the Jewish community overall. Not for every Jew, in every place, at every moment, but we must recognize this as a good and important moment for the Jewish people. I say this through the particular lens of my experience as a refugee from Iran, just one of the million Jews that fled the Middle East and North Africa, that fled from persecution, discrimination, and violence in the 20th century. You know our plight. Jews throughout the Muslim world were considered dhimmis. We were designated second-class citizens. In Iran, historically, we were restricted to ghettos or mahallahs, and we were labeled as najas, a word that not means only dirty, but dirty and impure as an untouchable. Even with the modernization of the policies of Reza Shah and his son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the best that the Jewish community could do was to carve out a relatively safe space to live in, so long as we knew our place. We were given even a representative in the Iranian parliament, just one. But we had no actual power. We had no political power, no economic power, no social power. What freedom we had was given from the Shah, a gift from the state, a state in which we fundamentally had no power. And what such a state giveth, such a state can taketh away. So when the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979, the Iranian Jews had no power to stop it, no power to influence it in any way, and we were powerless to prevent the imposition of its core mandate on the Jewish community, which was to repudiate the inherent connection between the land of Israel and our Jewish identity. Simply stated, that we renounce Zionism. The Islamic regime could tolerate the existence of a Jewish community, a community of dhimmis, second-class citizens with no political, economic, or social power. After all, that was the paradigm that existed in the Islamic world for 13 centuries. But what they could not abide, what they could not tolerate, is the idea of Jewish independence, the idea of Jewish equality and self-determination that rejected dhimmihood. That is what the state of Israel represents: Jewish equality and Jewish self-determination. Israel is the ultimate rejection of dhimmihood. When the new Islamic regime summarily executed a leader of the Iranian Jewish community, Habib al-Ghannaian, his crime wasn't being a Jew or rejecting Islam. His crime was being a Zionist. The small Jewish community that remains in Iran is allowed to do so, provided that they renounce Zionism and denounce Israel. Iran's small Jewish community is trotted out regularly at demonstrations against Israel to display anti-Israel propaganda. That's the world my generation knew. Today, the Islamic Republic of Iran exports its particular brand of Jew hatred worldwide, harping on a pseudo-intellectual distinction between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, subverting the West's pillars of freedom of speech and equality, and using the West's sense of guilt for their colonial past and imposing it onto the Jewish state. We, the Jewish refugees from the Middle East and North Africa, We, the Jews of the MENA, recognize this narrative for what it is: plain and simple Jew hatred. But this time, we are not powerless. Today's generation of Jews from Iran and other Middle Eastern and North African countries are seeing, experiencing, and making a different reality, both in Israel and here in America. After the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, Israel has crushed Hamas, beaten Hezbollah into submission, and broken Iran's strategy of strangling Israel through its proxies. And it has also shaken any sense of invulnerability Iran may have had. Don't get me wrong, we cannot celebrate until every last hostage is home. And this war, this long, awful war, is not over. Unfortunately, it may never be over. Israel's enemies, including Hamas and Hezbollah, will regroup, they will reconstitute, they will be back. But the ultimate antidote to Jewish powerlessness, the state of Israel, will be there to meet them. Yes. Here in America, where Jews are free and equal without qualification, we have accrued and been able to exercise the kind of real political, economic, and social power that is the birthright of all Americans and that was denied to us when we lived back in the Middle East and North Africa. Our MENA American communities organized and channeled their advocacy to politically pressure our elected officials to act against anti-Semitism on college campuses, in the workplace, and elsewhere. Our students spoke up on campuses and at congressional hearings. Our leaders in the business and professions used their positions of economic power and social influence to compel their institutions and those that they support to act to protect the Jewish community. Throughout the US, Jewish attorneys challenged unlawful anti-Semitism in the courts, holding some of America's most powerful institutions to account for their failure to protect Jews. At least some in the fields of entertainment and sports had the courage to speak up and influence the discourse on anti-Semitism. And our very many Jewish communal organizations challenged the media, government, and civil society institutions to make them face their own anti-Semitism and to do something about it. Sorry. From what I can see, every Jewish MENA community has done its part in this fight, and with gusto. Every MENA American Jew has made the most of the rights we have here in the US and that was denied to us in the countries that we came from. The war against anti-Semitism in America is not over, and unfortunately, it may never be. But as long as we continue to cherish the rights and opportunities that we have here in the US and exercise the power that flows from those rights and opportunities, as does every other American community, I am confident that the American Jewish community, including its community of Jews descending from the Middle East and North Africa, will continue to thrive. That is why when I say good evening, I really do mean it. And I mean it especially as a Persian American Jew. Thank you, everyone.